If you are hearing these words right now, it means suffering has touched your life in some way. Maybe it arrived quietly, like a shadow you didn't notice at first, or maybe it struck violently, tearing through your world and leaving pieces scattered everywhere. Whatever form it has taken, pain has a way of demanding your attention. It shakes you, interrupts you, pulls you into questions you never thought you'd ask. Why me? Why this? What now? And here's the truth. Suffering is not meaningless noise. It is a call. A call to rise, a call to awaken, a call to discover depths inside yourself that comfort and ease could never reveal. Suffering points to something hidden, something waiting to be uncovered. The very fact that you are still here, watching, listening, breathing, means that life is asking you to lean in, not turn away. Most people try to silence suffering. They drown it in distractions, numb it with temporary escapes, or try to pretend it doesn't exist. But pain doesn't disappear when ignored. It speaks louder. It presses harder. Because suffering is not your enemy, it is a messenger. And the message is simple. There is more to you than what you see right now. Think about this for a moment. Every great transformation in human history, every breakthrough of spirit, every story of survival has suffering at its root. No one discovers their strength while sitting in perfect comfort. It is the fire that purifies, the storm that tests the foundation, the night that makes the dawn unforgettable. And right now, your suffering is not proof that you are weak. It is proof that you are alive, that your story is still being written, that you are carrying something that has the power to shape you into more than you imagined. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it feels unbearable at times. But what if this very weight you're carrying is not here to crush you, but to carve you? What if the questions you're asking are not evidence of despair, but the doorway to meaning? When pain calls, it is not asking you to surrender to hopelessness. It is inviting you to find the strength you didn't know existed. And here's where the shift happens. You are not just a victim of circumstance. You are not defined by what happened to you, or by what you've lost. You are defined by how you respond. The call of suffering is not an invitation to collapse, it is an invitation to rise. And if you can hear that call, then it means you already have what it takes to answer it. So don't run from the pain. Don't numb it. Don't silence it. Listen, let it speak. Let it reveal to you that even in the darkest season of your life, there is meaning to be found, strength to be claimed, and a future waiting to be built. Because suffering is not the end. It's the beginning. Life will hand you circumstances you never asked for. Pain you didn't choose, loss you didn't deserve, struggles that feel heavier than your capacity to endure. And when those moments come, and they do for everyone, there's one truth that determines whether you remain broken or rise stronger. You cannot always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose how you respond. This is the hidden power no one can take from you. Not circumstances, not other people, not even the weight of tragedy itself. There is a space between what happens and how you respond to it. And in that space lives your freedom, your dignity, your strength. That choice is the last human freedom, and it is unshakable. Even when everything else is stripped away, most people don't see it. They believe their life is dictated by what happens to them. If someone hurts them, they believe they must live broken. If the world takes something precious, they believe they must live bitter. If circumstances feel unfair, they believe they are powerless. But here's the truth. Circumstances may shape the path, but they do not define the traveler. The decision you make in the midst of pain, whether to give up or to move forward, whether to collapse or to stand tall, that decision writes the story of your life. Think about this. Two people can face the same storm. One emerges hardened, bitter, convinced that life is nothing but cruelty. The other emerges stronger, softer, more compassionate, with eyes open to the beauty that still exists even in the ashes. What was the difference? Not the storm. The storm was the same. The difference was the choice. And this choice does not happen once. It happens every day and every moment. When pain whispers to you that you are finished, you must choose to say, "No, I am not done." When despair tries to chain you to hopelessness, you must choose to answer, "There is still meaning here." When the world strips away comfort and certainty, you must choose to rise anyway. That choice is power. That choice is freedom. That choice is survival. I know this truth feels heavy, because when you accept it, you realize no one else can carry it for you. No one else can make the choice for you. It is yours and only yours. But here's the hope hidden in that truth. Because it belongs to you, no one can take it away. You are never fully powerless. As long as you can choose your response, you are free. So ask yourself now, what will you choose? To let suffering break you, or to let it shape you? To surrender to despair, or to hold on to hope? That choice is yours. It has always been yours. And the moment you realize that is the moment you step back into your power. Because even in the struggle, you are never without choice. And in that choice lies your freedom. Suffering becomes unbearable only when it feels meaningless. When you believe that pain is random, cruel, and empty, it crushes you. It steals the air from your lungs and the will from your spirit. But the moment you discover even a glimmer of meaning, suffering transforms. It doesn't disappear, but it becomes bearable, it becomes purposeful, it becomes a path. Meaning is not something that arrives from the outside. It's something you create, and in the middle of your deepest pain, it becomes your lifeline. Ask yourself, what is this teaching me? What can I give through this? Who can I become because of this? Those questions shift the ground beneath your feet. They take you from being a victim of suffering to a student of it, from being crushed to being carved. Think of the people who endure the impossible, survivors of tragedies, people who have lost everything yet somehow rise again. They did not rise because life was kind. They rose because they discovered a meaning greater than the suffering itself. For some, it was the love of family. For others, a vision of the future. For some, the unshakable conviction that life itself was asking them to keep going. Meaning was the thread they clung to when everything else was torn away. You may be asking right now, but how do I find meaning in my pain? And the answer is not the same for everyone. Sometimes meaning comes from looking forward, choosing to live for the sake of those who need you, those who love you, those who would be forever changed by your absence. Sometimes meaning comes from looking inward, deciding that your pain will not be wasted, that you will allow it to deepen you, strengthen you, awaken you. Sometimes meaning comes from looking outward, transforming your struggle into service, your scars into signposts for others who are lost in the same storm. But no matter where you find it, meaning changes everything. The same pain that once felt unbearable becomes fuel. The same nights that felt endless become training grounds for your spirit. The same weight that threatened to crush you becomes the very weight that builds your strength. Pain with no meaning is torture. Pain with meaning is transformation. So let me ask you right now, what is your suffering calling you to? Is it asking you to forgive, to love deeper, to step into courage you didn't know you had, to create, to serve, to rebuild, to rise? Somewhere inside your pain is a message. Somewhere in the middle of the chaos is a direction. And when you choose to listen, when you choose to find meaning, your suffering no longer defines you. It refines you. This is the truth. Life is not asking you to avoid pain. It's asking you to discover meaning through it. And once you do, there is no darkness you cannot endure. There is a freedom no prison can lock away. No tyrant can steal, no tragedy can erase. It is not the freedom of where you stand, but of how you stand. Not the freedom of what happens around you, but of what happens within you. It is the freedom of your attitude, the freedom of your perspective, the freedom of choosing who you will be in the face of what life has thrown at you. The world can strip you of everything, your possessions, your status, even your physical strength. But there is one place the world cannot touch, the sanctuary of your mind, the posture of your spirit. That inner space is untouchable, and it is there that your truest power lives. Think about this. Two people can stand in the same darkness. One collapses, convinced there is no hope. The other holds their head high, not because the situation is different, but because their spirit refuses to surrender. The difference is not circumstance. The difference is freedom, inner freedom. And here's the paradox. The harsher the external chains, the brighter this freedom shines. When everything is taken away, you discover the one thing that cannot be taken. That realization is like fire in the soul. It says, you may break my body, but you will not break my will. You may limit my options, but you will not dictate my spirit. You may control the environment, but you cannot control me. This inner freedom is not abstract. It is practical. It is the ability to decide, even in pain, how you will interpret what is happening. It is the ability to stand in loss and still declare, there is meaning here. It is the ability to endure suffering and still choose to love, to hope, to create. Most people believe freedom is external. They think freedom means wealth, power, open doors, and yes, those things can create comfort. But true freedom is revealed only when those things are gone. When the comforts are stripped away, you find out whether you are enslaved to circumstance or anchored in something deeper. And here's the invitation for you. Reclaim that inner freedom. Life may be pressing you down. Circumstances may feel unbearable, but within you is a space that no one can touch. Guard it, protect it, live from it. Because that space is where your dignity lives, where your meaning lives, where your survival begins. When you grasp this, suffering loses its power to define you. Hardship stops being the end of your story and becomes the soil from which resilience grows. You're no longer just reacting to life, you are choosing your stance in the middle of it. So let the world do what it will. Let storms come. Let losses break against you. Remember this, there is a part of you no storm can reach. That is your freedom. And as long as you hold on to it, you are undefeated. When life pushes you into the darkest corners, survival is not just about strength, it's about purpose. Muscles can fail, willpower can waver, but purpose? Purpose is the anchor that keeps you from drifting into despair. Purpose is the compass that points you forward when everything else says turn back. You see, pain without purpose is unbearable. But pain with purpose? That becomes power. When you know why you are enduring, suddenly the weight on your shoulders is no longer just suffering. It becomes sacred. It becomes the price of something greater, something worth the sacrifice. Look back at history and you'll find this truth echoing again and again. People who endured unimaginable suffering didn't survive by accident. They survived because they had something to live for, something larger than the moment of agony, a vision, a dream, a responsibility. A love that pulled them forward when every part of them wanted to collapse. Purpose transforms suffering. It changes the question from why is this happening to me, to how can I use this? It changes the narrative from victim to fighter, from hopeless to driven. And here's the paradox. The more crushing the weight, the greater the strength that purpose can unlock. Think of the mother who works 3 jobs, exhausted beyond words, yet she endures. Why? Because she's carrying her children's future in her hands. Think of the survivor who walks through tragedy and loss, yet keeps breathing, keeps moving. Because there is still someone they must show up for, something they must finish, a mission that demands their life. Purpose gives fire to the spirit, and here is where many go wrong. They search for an easy life instead of a meaningful life. They want comfort more than calling. But comfort will not hold you when the storms come. Only purpose will. Comfort evaporates in hardship, but purpose grows stronger in the flames. So I ask you, what is your anchor? What is the one thing that when life rips everything else away you can cling to? That answer is your survival code. That answer is what will keep you standing when everyone else falls. Purpose does not erase suffering, but it redeems it. It tells you that the pain you're carrying is not pointless. It tells you that your scars are not wasted. It tells you that every ounce of struggle is the currency for something greater. When you live with purpose, you no longer fear the storm, you use it. You no longer shrink in the face of pain, you rise through it. Because you understand this simple, unshakable truth. Purpose is the anchor of survival. Your wounds can either destroy you, or they can shape you into someone unbreakable. Pain is not just an obstacle, it is a forge. And the fire of suffering will do one of 2 things. It will burn you down into ashes, or it will refine you into steel. The choice is yours. Think about this. Every scar on your body, every scar on your soul tells a story. Those stories are not signs of weakness, they are proof that you have endured. They are proof that you have walked through the fire and made it out alive. And the truth is, what once broke you can become the very thing that builds you if you allow it. Pain, when denied, rots. It festers, it poisons, it consumes. But pain, when embraced, becomes the raw material of growth. It sharpens your vision. It expands your strength. It teaches you lessons that comfort could never teach. Comfort whispers, stay safe. Pain screams, rise higher. Look around at those who have changed the world. Those who stand as unshakable leaders, creators, fighters. Their greatness wasn't born from ease, it was carved out of pain. They took betrayal, loss, failure, rejection, and instead of letting it destroy them, they transmuted it into power. They said, if life is going to hurt me, I will not waste the wound. And that is the mindset that transforms everything, refusing to waste the wound. Because hidden inside every heartbreak, every disappointment, every setback is a seed. That seed, if watered with courage and perspective, grows into resilience. It grows into strength that no one can take from you. Think of your greatest pain. That night you thought you would never make it. That betrayal that cut so deep you swore you couldn't recover. that loss that left you gasping for meaning. Now imagine this. What if that pain was not the end of your story but the beginning of your transformation? What if the very thing that tried to destroy you was actually shaping you into someone unbreakable? You see, suffering is universal, but transformation is a choice. Pain can break you or it can build you. And the moment you decide to stop running from it, to stop burying it and instead harness it, that is the moment pain becomes power. So take your wounds and wear them as armor. Take your scars and let them remind you of the battles you've already won. Take your heartbreak and let it deepen your capacity to love. Take your failures and let them fuel your persistence. Every piece of pain in your story can be redeemed if you refuse to let it define you and instead command it to refine you. Pain is not the enemy. It is the raw material of greatness. And the moment you decide to transform it, you stop being a victim of your past and start becoming the architect of your future. There is something in the human spirit that no prison can contain, no suffering can silence, and no loss can fully destroy. It is that unexplainable fire within that refuses to bow to circumstance. The body may be caged, the options may be stripped away, but the spirit, that inner flame, remains free the moment it decides to be free. History is full of proof. People who were locked away yet wrote words that changed nations. People who lost everything, yet rose from the ashes and built lives more powerful than before. People who suffered unimaginable cruelty, yet refused to let bitterness win. What explains this? It's not luck. It's not denial. It's the unshakable truth that the human spirit is greater than circumstance. Circumstance says, "You're finished." The spirit says, "I'm just beginning." Circumstance says, "You're defeated." The spirit says, "Watch me rise." Circumstance says, "You are broken." The spirit says, "These cracks are where my light gets through." And this is where you must understand something vital. Your situation may limit what you can do, but it cannot dictate who you are. Circumstances can restrict your movement, but they cannot dictate your mindset. They can take away your tools, but they cannot take away your will. They can silence your voice for a season, but they cannot erase your message. What makes a person unstoppable is not that they avoid hardship, it's that they refuse to let hardship own them. They rise above it. They decide, this may shape me, but it will not define me. This may test me, but it will not break me. That decision is where true freedom begins. Think about it. The strongest trees are not those that grow in perfect weather. They are the ones that survive storms, stand tall against winds, and sink roots deep into the earth to withstand drought. The same is true for you. Your strength is not forged in comfort. It's born in struggle. And when you refuse to let circumstance dictate the end of your story, your spirit grows beyond the very walls that try to contain it. The greatest victories are not always visible on the outside. Sometimes the greatest victory is that you did not give up, that you refused to bow, that you endured one more day, one more hour, one more breath. That is triumph. That is freedom beyond circumstance. So when life presses you against the wall, remember this truth. They can touch your body, but they cannot cage your spirit unless you hand them the key. The choice is always yours. The fire within you is greater than the chains around you. No prison, no suffering, no loss can hold a spirit that decides to rise. And once you make that decision truly, deeply, nothing in this world can stop you. Life is always asking you a question. Not once, not occasionally, but every single day. The question is not asked in sentences, and it's not answered with words. The question is asked through circumstance, and it is answered through how you live. When life strips something away from you, that is the question. When pain visits your doorstep, that is the question. When disappointment breaks your heart, when loss shakes your world, when storms rage around you, those are not punishments, they are questions. And your response, your choice, your action in those moments, that is your answer. Here's the truth. It's easy to speak words of hope when the sun is shining. It's easy to say you're strong when everything is going your way. But life does not measure your words, it measures your living. The storm is where your answer matters. The storm is where your responsibility to life itself is revealed. Responsibility means this. You don't get to choose every circumstance, but you do get to choose your response. You don't control what life hands you, but you do control how you carry it. And in that choice lies your responsibility, not just to yourself, but to life itself. Think of it this way. Every time you refuse to give up, you are answering life's question. Every time you choose love over bitterness, perseverance over surrender, courage over fear. You are telling life, I will not waste this chance. I will not waste this breath. I will not waste this pain. Responsibility is not about perfection. It's not about pretending you're unshaken. It's about showing up even when you're tired, moving forward even when you're hurting, and holding on to integrity when compromise looks easier. It's about refusing to let life's storms turn you into something smaller than who you were meant to be. And here's the deeper truth. When you accept responsibility to life itself, you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what now? You stop looking for excuses and start looking for meaning. You stop waiting for the world to change and begin becoming the change. That shift is everything. Life is not waiting for you to explain yourself. Life is waiting for you to live your answer. It is waiting to see if you will rise in the storm or collapse under its weight. It is waiting to see if you will turn pain into purpose, wounds into wisdom, and hardship into strength. So I ask you today, what is your answer to life's question? Not in what you say, but in how you live. Because every breath you take is part of your response. Every choice is part of your answer. And when the storm rages, let your answer be unshakable. I will not waste this life. I will live it fully, even here, even now. That is your responsibility to life itself. Hope is not naive. Hope is not blind optimism. Hope is rebellion. It is defiance against despair. It is the quiet but unshakable declaration, I will not be broken. Despair whispers, it's over. Hope answers, not yet. Despair says, there's no way. Hope says, I will find one. Despair insists, you are finished. Hope responds, this is only the beginning. That is the battle. And every time you choose hope, you are not being naive. You are standing in defiance against the very force that wants to consume you. People mistake hope for weakness. They think it's denial, pretending the pain isn't real. No. Hope looks directly into the pain and says, even so I will rise. Hope acknowledges the storm, feels the weight of the loss, but refuses to surrender its last breath to despair. That refusal, that stubbornness is what makes hope unstoppable. Hope is what keeps you standing when everything in you wants to fall. Hope is what drives you forward when logic tells you there's no reason to continue. Hope is what whispers in your ear when the night feels endless. Hold on. Morning is coming, and here is the power of hope. It multiplies. One spark of hope in a single heart can light a fire in an entire generation. One act of courage born out of hope can inspire thousands to keep going. History is proof of this. Some of the greatest movements, the greatest breakthroughs, the greatest victories began not with resources, not with power, but with hope. Someone daring to believe that despair would not have the final word. Hope is not the absence of pain. It is the refusal to let pain dictate your end. It is the voice that says, yes, this hurts. Yes, this is heavy. But no, this is not the end of me. That is why hope is so dangerous to despair. It refuses to be silenced. Think of your own life. There were moments you almost gave up. Times when everything seemed lost. Yet here you are. Why? Because some part of you, no matter how small, no matter how fragile, held on to hope. And that hope pulled you through. So the question now is not whether despair will knock on your door. It will. The question is whether you will answer with surrender or with defiance, whether you will let despair write your story, or whether you will let hope be your rebellion. When you stand in hope, you are declaring war on despair. You are saying, you will not have me. You will not define me. You will not break me. Hope is not naive. It is the most powerful defiance you can carry. It is your weapon. It is your shield. And as long as hope burns within you, despair has already lost.